We know each other. So, Climate Adaptation Center, you tell a quick story, tell us what's in, the world's burning up, and then Hawaii.
Right.
Crosby will tell us about Moat and Carl and what he's doing for people who don't know. And we will encourage everybody, philanthropy is the key.
So let me just say a couple things. One is I spent decades in government as a direct government employee. I was the lead forecaster for NOAA for a long time. And I also ran the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, which is probably our nation's greatest research center for the atmospheric and related sciences. We have 1,000 scientists and engineers and support people and a $450 million a year budget. It's a very big operation, supercomputers, fleet of aircraft. It's big science with more than 100 US universities using that center as a unique center that gives them the tools they need to do atmospheric science. And so I grew up in a big science, synoptic kind of science world, weather and climate world. And after many years doing that, there was one thing that was in my mind missing, and I felt like we were not acting on the science that we knew, the information that we knew, and that somehow the science information was not making the connection with ordinary people. And so the Climate Adaptation Center is really a prototype, the one we have in Sarasota. We hope to open a second one next year in Colorado. But we don't do science, but we translate science into information that people can use to make decisions. Because with armed with that information, we can solve the problems that we have without a lot of interference. So we try not to take a stand on this or that as far as politics goes. We're a neutral ground like the GIC, and we're just trying to make the case for what we know and give it a probability. You know, in Las Vegas, if you have a 1% chance of winning over losing, you take that bet every day. And in climate science, we're now 75, 80, 85% sure what's coming in the next 70, 100 years. And we're not using that information, and we should be making money on that every day because that bet is going to win, and it is winning. So the climate forecast in the 1980s on the supercomputers that we had at NCAR have become today's weather. That's the weather we're having now. And yesterday we had these massive fires in Hawaii, and it was created by a hurricane that was a Category 4 hurricane that went by with a very small rain field but a big wind field. 85 mile an hour wind gust in Hawaii, in a country or in a state that has lowered the agricultural output, and all these grasses have taken over the field. They're not native grasses, they're like milfoil, but they're in the fields, and they've covered the fields. And there's been a 10-year drought in Hawaii. The last 10 years have been below normal. These big winds, I think the problem was that an electrical failure where a line blew down, set off the fire, and then this fire just went like with hurricane force winds across these towns. And as of tonight, 9,000 people in this little town in Hawaii that's a historic town. The whole town was burned down. At least 3 dozen people are dead and hundreds are missing. They literally had to dive into the ocean to save their lives, and there's hundreds of people missing tonight, and those fires are still burning. So this is a combination of a lot of things in nature, these noxious weeds that grow, partly because of climate warming, these super hurricanes that are more often, and we're seeing these extreme temperatures all over the world now, and climate the climate crisis, I think, is actually accelerating now, and we're starting to see it. So it's very, very important that all of our groups, what Michael's doing at Mo, what Elizabeth is doing with at least a half a dozen different organizations, is to try to bring people together to understand what the problem is so that we can actually use our carbon brain, the carbon that we want to keep, and the fact that we are human beings that can make decisions, to make the decisions and not let inertia drive us into the future. And I have to say, Elizabeth has been, you know, she's a director of this, she's a citizen scientist, and with MOAT and with the CAC, her contributions and her insights help us bring that connection between science and emotions, because if we make that connection, that's how we can solve these problems. So I don't really want to talk too long, but Elizabeth will probably have, I mean, she can tell some stories, right? I mean, because we've been through a lot in Florida lately, and so has she and our directors. We've lost homes, we've lost a lot of things in the last year.
Thank you, Bob.